Welcome to Best Wellness Interviews, where I interview successful people and they share their experiences around health and well-being and the strategies they've used to change their circumstances to inspire you. I'm Kristine Best, I'm your host, and today my guest is Vangelis Kalogirou. I say that right?
Kalogirou.
Oh, hero. Okay. Well, in that case, I'm going to get you to introduce yourself just briefly so that people can understand who you are and what you do.
Okay. I was born in Greece, and I was put into an orphanage when I was 6 months old. Then I was adopted by a German family in Texas, and that's why I have the Greek name, Vangelis Kalogirou. And I grew up in San Antonio, Texas, and I took 10 years of classical music, and that's what I really wanted to do in my life, and play music and go and tour and everything. But because I grew up in a family that was extremely, extremely dictating, and I also grew up in a very, very religious environment, I took a detour and got into technology. And so I've been doing that for the last 4 decades. And really working, traveling all over the world with all the latest technologies. I worked at IBM, I consulting with Cisco, with NVIDIA, and happened to make a big shift about 4 years ago. And that's where I started going into these masterminds, and that's how I met Kristine.
Yes, and we've had some very interesting conversations. And you've even read my book, which is like pretty amazing. But your journey
Absolutely.
is mind-blowing, really. Uh, you you said that you were brought up in a very strict, dictating household, and one that was very religious, and so that was a difficult environment for you, and you weren't actually doing what your heart's desire was, which must have had a very big impact on you. And I would love for you to explain what it was like. People can understand
Sure.
the environment better.
Yeah. We can introduce a couple of words like coping mechanisms and masks and identities. And that's
Mm.
basically at the beginning, it was just surviving. And then it kind of shifted to functioning acceptable in society. Because, when physiologically you're in your brain development, you don't even develop the part of your brain that allows you to analyze or even consider things until you're about 8 or 9 years old. So everything that is spoken to you, everything you see, it just goes right in unfiltered. So that's part of why a lot of people go, well, how was your childhood? They ask that because you had no way of pushing back. Even if you wanted to, you weren't physiologically even capable. So it wasn't like I could say, I don't think that's right, mother. You couldn't even do that before you were already so indoctrinated. This is the way life is. And when I talk about dictator, it was subtle. I'll give you an example. When I was 16, I got my driver's license, and I'm driving the car, and my mom is in the passenger seat. And we get to an intersection, and I said, "Which way do you want me to go?" "I'll go any way you want to, but go straight ahead." Eh, was there an option there? You see, it's subtle. It's very.
Yeah,
It wasn't like no. It was you think you have an option, but they pull it away from you.
yeah.
All right. So that's the subtlety. And if when you live like that, you realize I really don't have a choice here.
I'll
I'd
just do what
like
I'm
to.
told.
Exactly. And that's the dictator part I'm talking about. And
Yeah.
and the religious background I have too is also this very similar. It's your things were confusing to me, real confusing, because I think I was one of the few people that actually read the Bible. I could tell that because when I would say things, they'd say, "Where is that?" "Oh, it's right here." And I started thinking, you don't really, and you're my Sunday school teacher, and you don't even know that's in here. And so that was so confusing too, Kristine, because I thought, man, what am I going to do? I can't know more than these people, and they're adults, and I'm only like 12 or 13. And so it was so difficult for me because I had questions. And even when I was in school, the teacher in my fourth grade, I remember it, she would say, "Which way does the earth rotate?" And I raised my hand and said, "Yes." And I said, "Are you looking up or are you looking down?" And she's thinking, oh my God, how is she going to teach me? You see what I mean? So that's what I grew up. It was a really strange environment for me because I really wanted to learn. I was
Yeah.
always looking for someone to teach me something I don't know
Yeah.
and understand my question. And it was so confusing for me. And then the fact that, I really wanted to play music. My mom got me an Elvis Presley GI Blues album when I was 4 years old. Okay. And I thought, oh man, this is what I want to do. I want to sing, I want to play music, I want to be in movies. And so I took 10 years of classical music on the piano and I was involved in all the stuff. And I was playing with studio musicians when I was 17. I mean, I'm 17 and they're like 40 and 50. And I thought, this is what I want to do. Well, once again, the subtlety. So the school counselor said, son, music is not a career. Well, what about these? Doesn't matter. It's not a career. Choose between accounting, engineering, or law. Okay. And then my church, oh my gosh. If it doesn't have Jesus and God in it, it's satanic. And I thought, so it's like, what do I do? I mean, I don't want to be labeled rebellious, right? So, and listen to your elders and all this. So it was just like, God, when do I get to live my life? Is it the next one, maybe? And so that's what I used to always think to myself. Maybe the next life I get to live what I want to live because I can't do it this life. And then eventually, as I got into technology, got into IBM and all that stuff, and then and that was fun. I mean, it wasn't music, but while I was at IBM, because the friend of mine that got me into IBM he told me, hey, you got to work for IBM. And so he played some instruments. And so they had a little group every time they had a branch office meeting, they would have some entertainment. And someone said, hey, yeah, he plays piano and sings. Well, once I got in there, we had productions. I mean, we would change the words of like the Music Man and we would have like a 15-minute production. And we would say, instead of you got trouble in River City, we would say you got quota in Dallas, Texas. And we renamed with all the words, we changed all the words and made them all IBM-ish. And I mean, people came from Armonk, from all over the United States to come to our meetings. Oh, are they performing today? Because it was amazing. And then there was another girl, Kristine, who came from another place at IBM, choreography, dancing, singing. And so the both of us, we made productions. And so that
Okay.
was fun. I got to at least, do the music there. And I did that for 10 years. And it was
Okay.
it was phenomenal. But then she left and then it kind of, because it was just me.
Fizzled.
And then and then I got into all of the technology stuff and I really wanted to learn it. So I
Yeah.
would make my own internships. Because IBM only gave you 2 weeks of training. So I would call different places at IBM and say, hey, can I come out there and just do your documentation? Yeah, if you make your way out here. And I would tell my manager, hey, they're giving me free education if I get my way out there. Oh, great, free education. So that's how I made my stuff and that's how I learned. And then as technology changed, I mean, you gotta remember, I started when we had punch cards.
Yeah.
So this is in the 70s, 80s, right?
I can relate to that
So
era.
things have changed a lot. Okay.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so I just learned all this stuff and I saw it evolve. And I think that's one reason why I think that when something new happens, I have such a background on, oh, I know what it came from. And so I had an idea. And then when I became an instructor, one of my fellow instructors, he was talking about his salary. And I was making 35,000 after 14 years, and he was making 80,000. I thought, how'd you do that? He says, well, you never work anywhere for more than 3 or 4 years. I said, okay. And so you must be leaving. Yeah, I already have an interview and getting 10,000 more dollars. So he planted the seed, Kristen, because at that time, everybody stayed at the company for their entire career. And that's all I knew. Because remember, I don't want to be rebellious.
Yeah.
So do what you're told. And you're thinking, you never
That was
thought for
the
yourself. Oh,
that was the old way as well, that you stayed with a company, you were loyal to it,
yes.
right?
Yeah. And I didn't, you weren't allowed to think for yourself. Remember, that's how I grew up.
So
You know,
tell me
the
about that.
joke.
Tell me about, because I want to know, it must have been frustrating. Yeah.
Yeah. So the joke about if I want your opinion, I'll give it to you. That wasn't a joke. And it's my way or the highway. There was no highway. It's my way. The people around me. There was not even an option of either listen or go. It wasn't even that. It was like you listen. So when you're growing up in that environment, you don't realize that in order to cope, you begin creating identities, personalities, and you start wearing masks. Okay, now to get an idea of what I mean, how many of you watching this video act different at home, at work, at the gym, at church, with different groups of friends? Now think about that for a second. Yeah, I do. Okay, those are all masks.
That's right.
Could you be the same person in all of that? Could you?
And a
See,
lot of people would
if you're
say no.
not, if you're not, you're creating and you have created false identities. None of those are you,
That's right.
right? Now, I didn't know I was doing that because, again, I'm 8 years old, 9 years old, 10. I don't know that, but that's what I did to function acceptably in society. So I was having all these masks, and it was, and I also realized never push back. Oh my gosh, sometimes I would, I kind of tested it. Ooh, not a good idea. So I realized I didn't have physical abuse. Mine was all mental. No one ever hit me, but it was my mind that they hit. And so it was, and then when I realized I'm not really even, I don't have my beliefs in me. Everything that was programmed into me was their beliefs.
That's right.
I'm living their life. And so when I finally was able to start realizing that, I thought, well, how many beliefs do I have? Do I really believe? Almost none.
And how
I
old
was
were you
totally
when
over.
you really realized that?
Oh, when I was about 50. Yeah, because back in 2009, I'm living in a $1.3 million home on a hill in California with a total ocean view. I'm making $250,000 a year, and I hate my life. Now, I couldn't tell anybody in my neighborhood because they say, "What do you mean? You should be grateful."
Mm.
Okay, so I have no one to even speak to about what's going on with me. So I'm really stuck. I have no one because the people around me, they're all millionaires and they've got, they're driving Lamborghinis and Rolls Royces and stuff. And
Did you
I'm living in
feel
the same house. Pardon?
did you feel isolated?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Mm.
Because you're all alone. I mean, I have nowhere to go, no one to talk to and say, "Hey, are you doing really well according to the world, but you hate your life?" Yeah, me too. Well, I think they did too,
Possibly.
but they were not ready to admit it.
Mhm.
Okay. So I just had to keep to myself and think, okay, what do I do? Well, and the churches, all the churches I was in, not just one, all of them, it was the Bible. That's the word of God. And you can't read anything else. We even had a bonfire at one of my churches. Bring all your books that aren't God and bring all your music that doesn't have Jesus. So I brought all my music, all my books, everything, burned everything.
Well, you know
This is
who
not a
else did
movie.
that? You know who
This is
else
not a
did that?
movie. Yeah, this is a bonfire at my church. So I did that, okay? Because I want to be pleasing to God. I didn't come to God because of God's love. I came to God because of the fear of going to hell. There was no love anywhere in this whole thing. In my entire 50 years, there was no reason. I did nothing for love.
Did
It
your
was all fear
parents
of going to
did your
hell and not being pleasing to God and all this stuff. So that was also the stuff that was always in the back of my head.
did your
I mean,
parents show you love?
pardon?
Did your parents show you love?
Well, okay. Think about it, Christine. They're the ones teaching me the stuff I'm being programmed with.
Mm.
So they're just relaying to me, you better accept Jesus or you're going to hell. That's the love that I got shown. Same
Wow.
thing. God loves you.
Wow.
Okay. And then I sometimes would ask a question. I'm like 12 or 13 years old, and I'd say, Pastor, you just said in the sermon that God's love is unconditional. Yes. So what do you mean when you say unconditional? Oh, he loves you no matter what. God loves you no matter what. No matter what. Right. So if I don't accept Jesus, and I don't read the Bible, I don't go to church, and I don't pray, I'm accepted? Oh, you just said God's love is unconditional. Now, is it or is it not? That's what I had to put up with, Christine.
Yep. It was confusing.
Conflicting information.
Definitely.
Oh, God loves you unconditionally,
Yep.
but you got to accept Jesus, you got to pray, blah, 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 blah. So it's not unconditional love.
No, it's not.
It's not
Well,
unconditional love.
no, not in that church, but
Exactly. And that's what
right.
I grew up. I grew up in that environment where the God that they were presenting to me was not a God of love. It
No,
was
no,
a
no.
manipulative, controlling
Absolutely.
entity. Yeah.
Absolutely.
But you see, I didn't know any other thing, Christine. There was
Yeah.
no one came around and said, hey, by the way, that's not really God's love. No one came around. There was no one that talked to me and said, I don't think that. So I had no
So
other
they were
reference.
all indoctrinated.
Exactly. Because everybody know birds of a feather flock together. Birds
Mm.
that are indoctrinated flock together.
Yeah,
Birds
that's
that
right.
are manipulated and programmed flock together because they all believe that stuff.
Yeah.
Right. So that's all I knew. And so here I am in 2009, I'm hating my life and I'm thinking, I don't even know what to do.
So what
So
did you feel? I want to know what you felt. Were you sad? What, what were the, I don't know, your thoughts?
frustrated,
Yeah, frustrated. I can
frustrated
imagine that.
and
Yeah.
very frustrated. And I would have to say angry because frustration is a form of anger,
Well, it leads to anger. Yes.
yeah. And so I was really angry and, but I had nowhere to go. So it was like, all right, maybe the next life.
That's pretty sad.
Yeah. But here's the thing though. People looked at me and said, oh, I wish I had your life. And I'm going, oh, you want my house and you want my car and you want my salary.
You don't want my
You don't
life.
want my 10 masks that I have to wear.
Yeah, that's
You want
right.
to wear some of these masks?
Yeah.
Yeah, but you're so brilliant. You're so smart. Okay, great.
Yeah.
And you play
But
music so well. No,
isn't that
I know.
interesting though? You can have everything, but if you haven't uh, come to terms with who you are, what have you
Exactly.
actually got?
Exactly. I didn't know who I was. And you know why? Because the people who were teaching me didn't know who they are.
No, of course.
If you don't know who you are, you can't teach someone who they are
I
because you have no
agree.
right,
I
no
agree.
reference.
Yep.
And so what started happening was somebody sinned and read a book other than the Bible. And I say that like that because remember bonfires and hell.
Yeah, yeah, right.
So it was Eckhart Tolle,
Well,
The
that's
Power of
a brazen act, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly. I said you're not supposed to. He goes, well, but you read the book. So I was teaching a class for Cisco in New York. So I flew to New York, read it, flew back from New York, read it, and finished it. And there was in the last chapter it says, if you're in a situation that you do not really want to be in, you have three options: either accept it, change it, or leave it. And I said, well, I'm done accepting, and it's not going to change. So I said I'm leaving. So I left the church. Oh my God. And
Wow.
then talk about my life taking off. And then I saw a movie, Angels and Demons, with Tom Hanks and Bateman. And
Yeah.
Bateman's a priest, and Tom Hanks is a person that looks at antiques and different things. And he says, and Bateman says, "Do you believe in God?" And he says, "Father, no, I'm not asking you if you believe in the God that man created." And I thought, okay.
And something clicked.
Yeah. So the Eckhart Tolle book, this movie, and then I must have put, how when a hypnotist says, when I say these words and snap my fingers, you step out. I must have done a couple of things before I came here saying, look, you're going to be so entrenched into all of this stuff. You're going to have a couple of things that are going to get you out or you'll stay in forever. Because one Saturday, the pastor said, I am your example of God. Another one of those wake ups, like,
Uh,
okay, so the book, the movie, that's saying, and then I got me again. I sinned. I got a Tony Robbins DVD, and he says in there, this is not a DVD about positive thinking. This is about deciding what you want to do, executing a plan, and getting it done. I thought, well, no one ever asked me what I wanted, so I thought, okay, so there's another thing, right? And then the last thing that happened was yeah, I was told you got to pray, you have to have a vision board, you have to have visualizations, you have to have binaural thinking, you have to do the positive. All these things you're supposed to do to have a great life and manifest, right? So here I am speaking with this guy, and he opens up his garage. I look, you have a 1964 Mustang. Yeah, number 5. I thought you don't like foreign cars. I don't. Well, how did you get this one? Well, the guy down the street was trying to sell it. He couldn't sell it. He gave it to me. Wait, let me make sure I understand. Okay, just 1 second. You didn't pray for this. I don't believe in that. You didn't have a vision board. What's that? You didn't visualize it because you don't like American cars. And so now it's time for me to attract another individual in my life, Arno Goran. My partner met his roommate, which introduced us to him, and I went to one of his seminars, and I said, so what do they have that I don't have? He says, no, it's not what they have. It's what they don't have. I don't understand. They don't have your beliefs and your psychological blocks. Okay. So I went to all of his seminars and I met a lady there, and she and I worked together. She's from New York, name is Cynthia Okimoto. We worked for 7 years every week, 1 week me, 1 week her. And all we did was we used his tools to find all of the psychological barriers and beliefs and stuff that weren't serving us. And it took 7 years every week.
Wow.
And all of a sudden, my life just, because now all those things that were, and it was stuff like when my mom passed away, 2018, my sister and I were trying to sell her house. A year was on the market. And I told Cynthia, I said, I got a block. So we worked on it. When we finished our session, my sister texts me, house got sold. And I thought, that's what I mean. It's stuff like that I can't say, nah, that's a coincidence. There were like hundreds of coincidences just in me, where I would finish something and like that, bing, something would happen or whatever. And I thought, unbelievable. So I don't have to do anything? No. You just have to remove the blocks. Because these guys, when I met that guy, and then I started meeting other people, I said, so you don't do anything? No. And stuff just comes to you. I said, okay. So that was like a huge pivot shift in my life, Kristine. And that's what I do
because
now.
The blocks were stopping you from knowing who you were.
Exactly.
And being who you were meant to be.
Exactly. And here's everything I realized, Kristine. You don't become who you are. You become who you're not. Those are the masks and the false identities. You already are who you are. See, I already was me. It was just all that programming got stacked on top of me and I couldn't see me. It's like having a desk. Yeah, it's like having a desk with 100 books and you start removing the books, which are all the programming. And then, oh, there's the desk. That's me. I was always there. Just never got to see it.
That's exactly what I wrote in my book.
Exactly.
And you've read my book, right? And it's about connecting back with yourself, because the trauma, or it doesn't have to even be a trauma, it could just be some significant event that happened, but it changed who you thought you were, and it also changed how you interact with other people, right? And that gets in the way of you connecting with yourself, right?
Exactly.
So now at 50 and beyond, you're starting to really connect with yourself.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, it took me, when I left the church, it took me probably 2 or 3 years to hear the word God and not be enraged.
Okay.
Because what happens is
it dredged up all those feelings and the frustration.
Yeah, because you turn into the blame thing first, and then because see, no one ever gave you agency. Okay, another thing, if something great happened, that's God. Well, no, you can't take credit. But if something bad happened, that's you. I said, oh, okay, let me make sure I understand this.
Can't win.
I'm the creator of the bad stuff. God's the creator of the good stuff, right?
Right.
It's like, seriously, are you gonna give me that crap? I mean, but that's how I grew up with, so it was like you never could take credit, which means you never were allowed agency or to take responsibility or create anything.
That's
right?
Very, very demeaning, and it makes you like you don't matter and you're not important. And
exactly. Hopeless.
But God didn't create us. God didn't create us to be like that. He created us to be unique and different and to matter, and that we have a purpose.
Yes. Well, I had no purpose but to do what I was told. That was it.
That's sad.
So then after I finally left, so 2 years, then finally I thought, well, maybe I had something to do with my life because I wasn't told that. So I had to go to that piece. And that's when I met Arno. And I thought, he says, no, 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 you created all this. Okay, no one ever told me that. I said, so then I started shifting. Okay, so I have agency. Yeah, you're the one creating all of this. Okay, so then I started thinking differently. But it's like an etch a sketch. I had to remove everything that I ever learned because it wasn't serving me. All right. So
Yep.
then
Yep.
finally, little by little, I could hear the word God, and then I could hear the word you have responsibility, and you're the one that's doing this stuff. And then little by little, moment by moment, and then I started reading books. I mean, books and books and books and books. And so I started thinking, wow, there's a whole life here. And then I started accepting myself. I wasn't looking for outward accepting. I was accepting myself. And then I realized, okay, I accept myself. I love myself. And so, but again, that was 5, 6, 7 years. And it only took me that long because of how deep the indoctrination was. Other people, they might take a year, but it
Yeah.
was just
Well, that's it.
so embedded, you
Well,
know,
that, but you
and,
had
and
many years of it. It wasn't just 1 or 2 years. It was like your entire life was like that.
yeah. And it started by being rejected. I mean, my Greek mother, my Greek father didn't want to have children. And he had my mother have 2 abortions. And the third time she said, no, I'm not having this aborted. So he took custody of me and put me into an orphanage. So, there's who knows what I experienced in the womb. I'm sure there was fighting and arguments, and stuff. And so my first experience of feeling was that chaotic environment. So I'm thinking, hey, this is life. And then when I got out of the womb, hey, this is what I experienced in the womb, chaos. And then when I get in the orphanage, hey. And then when I get adopted by
Rejected.
this German family, hey, it's like, hey, this is life. That's all I thought life was.
Mm,
Chaos and arguing and disruption. I mean, there was no other reference, Christine. I didn't ever see
no.
a family that was, hi, how are you doing? Wait, you're being soft and nice with me?
Yeah. Vangelis, this is like mind blowing to think that there'd be a lot of people out there who lived a life similar to you,
Absolutely.
and that they still possibly haven't connected with themselves and don't even realize they can get out of that.
I was reading a book by Laura Davis. It's about children that were abused, and in there she does a lot of meetings with people, and she recalls one meeting where there were a couple of women that were talking about how they were violated by their fathers, and one woman's going, you know, and she starts thinking maybe she didn't even know she was abused, but it was because she
Right.
was listening to the other people. It finally dawned on her she was abused. And that's what this thing does, what we're talking about here.
Mm,
It might waken somebody up and say, you know what? Wow, that was what happened to me. Because sometimes you have to hear someone else talk about it,
that's
which is
right.
why I really love your book, because your book gives someone a language, a way to verbalize. Because if you can't verbalize and describe what happened,
You
you don't
can't
know how to
deal with it.
focus on it. And so
Yeah.
your book does such a wonderful job with giving people a language and a way to speak about things. And that's why this podcast also will allow people to, oh wow, that happened to me. So what did you do? And so it's I had to first be honest with myself. I had to be honest with, do
Right.
I believe the beliefs I had?
But
No, I don't.
that must have been a big step as well, because like you said, oh, I'm going to go to hell if I do this, or if I don't
Yeah,
follow
well,
Jesus, I'm going to.
that movie where I realized maybe God is not who was presented to me.
Mm,
There's a possibility. So it was, and then I had to use the word universe for a while just to, you know, get away from the enrage I had about God. And so, and then I was able to read books about different things. And then finally I read the Kabbalah and I read the Torah and the Quran and the Bhagavad Gita and all different books, and I got this different idea about God. And then I had several mentors. I had one mentor that took me from here to there, another mentor from here to there, and mentor from here to there, and they were actually able to get me to connect to myself. And then when I go back to the Bible now, I hear, oh, well, Jesus said you're all gods. Now, because no one ever talked about that stuff in church.
No.
You're all gods. How come you never said that to me before, right? So now things that were in the Bible are now coming alive to me because I see it from a totally different perspective, not from some controlling entity, but from, greater things than these you can do. Well, what do you mean? Greater things than these. I can do greater things than you? Yeah. Well, that means you're not special then. You're just like me. What? So all these things catapulted me into realizing, okay, and slowly discovering what I am. And once I do that, now, the peace and the tranquility and the calmness of life is just, I'm just now starting my life. It's just, it's like you and I talk about this, we're just now starting a whole new chapter, and it's amazing. I have more clarity than I did when I was in my 20s. And I'm accelerating. My 22-year-old, me and my 22, would not keep up with me today.
Vangelis, you
And
feel like
the
you're
same
just
thing is for
starting.
you.
You feel like you're just starting, do you, Vangelis?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Just
And
getting going.
yeah, and you're the same way. When you were 20, could not keep up with you today because what you know and what you've experienced, oh my
Oh
gosh.
man, I've learned so much, especially in the last 9 years, probably,
Yeah.
because that's when I embarked on this chapter of my life. So when did
Yes.
you embarked at 50, right?
Yeah, it was around 2009 is when yeah, let's see. Yeah, it's 2008. I was 50, so 2009 is when I had that realization, and that's
It's
kind of
to,
when things
it,
just
it's taken
started.
you all that time really to undo the damage, so to speak.
Yeah, it's like Michelangelo. How did you build the statue of David? Oh, I removed everything that wasn't David,
That's
and that's all
it.
I'm doing.
It's a
I'm
great
just removing
analogy.
everything
Yep.
that's not me,
Mm.
right? And the other thing I learned too, Christine, you have all these they give you these personality tests, right? What
Mm.
I realized is there's a difference between a personality test and a test like the human design or the gene keys, because the personality test shows you who you're not. You're not type A. You're not a
Yeah.
perfectionist. You're not a controller. That's who you have become because of the programming. But those gene keys and the human design tests, those are like, okay, this is the day you were born and the time you were born and where you were born. This is what you are. And it's phenomenal because it's like, yes, exactly what I think and how and so you have to be careful because those personality tests, companies go, okay, let's see who you are. Well, that's not who I am.
Yeah, because people can fudge it and people can lie a bit because they lie to themselves.
Well, but you don't know I didn't know I was lying
Well,
to myself.
well, no, that's right. You don't realize, do you?
Yeah. And
And
it's
I
not, and that's why sometimes it's difficult to listen to someone because
the
they'll say
same.
something.
Yeah, I think everybody's in the same boat because when we come into this world, as you rightly pointed out in the beginning, when you're born and you're raised in a family, you are given their standards, their ethics, their beliefs, their expectations, and their limitations, right?
Absolutely.
And so it takes people a while to work out, well, I don't like that bit. That bit's not serving me. But I've learnt this and I've learnt that, and I'll take that on board. So it takes time through life, right? To
Yeah,
make a change.
because it's like when I was at IBM, I'm in my 20s, okay, and I developed a customized class for my customer, and I went to my manager. So how much do we charge? And he says, "Oh, we don't charge for that." So what do you mean? We don't charge for education and training. That's value add. So I put in a suggestion to IBM, and the next year I got an award, first dollar bill for education. And I thought, are you telling me out of 75 years of IBM history and 350,000 employees, I'm the only one that thought of this? Apparently, yeah.
Wow.
And there were like 4 or 5 things like that I did at IBM where I'm the only guy. I was the only instructor to teach a class by myself. I was the only instructor, the first one to teach it on site. I thought, God. And so this is what I mean. The things that people tell you, no one ever questions them. I'm your authority. No, you are not. You are a person who follows followers, not a leader, a follower. And the next follows the follows. You know who said that? Earl Nightingale. He said there are people that follow leaders and people that follow followers. And that was back in the 50s, right? So that's what happens. And so I started realizing I can't follow these people, which I did all my life. I got to just follow my own inspiration. And that's what I do today is I follow my inspiration. I follow my spirit. I follow what I hear inside. But because I connected to myself, that was the big key, Kristine. You said it earlier. I was disconnected.
Yeah. So how do you feel now when you look back on your life? What goes through you now?
It's all that stuff. It's like when you watch a movie and you see the hero or the heroine, and they had to go through all that stuff to be where they are at the end of the movie. So, would you change something? Well, no, because then I wouldn't be where I am today.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I would have left IBM earlier, or if I would have left church earlier, I wouldn't have experienced what I did those last years. Because see, it's like I had to stay to get the full richness of what I was supposed to experience. And if you truly believe that before you come here, you decide what you want to do, then I had to go through all those things because now, God, it's just, I see stuff so different. And I look back and even when I think about my mom, my dad, and my mom, my dad, both sets, I don't think anything negative because they fulfill their role perfectly to give me the environment that I required for me to be where I am today.
So that's interesting that you say that, Vangelis, because people don't realize that the bad things you go through actually have a positive effect on your life if you perceive it as being a positive effect. So it's all to do with how you perceive it, right?
Yeah, and I know that's difficult for some people. Like my partner, she was physically. Yeah, there's a lot of people I know that were physically abused, and it's for them to go, "What? That was great for me." I know it's a difficult thing.
No.
It really is because when you look at
Yeah.
see again when you see things from this perspective and not while you're down here in it, it's
Yeah.
different. And that's what your book does. Your book helps you see things from a different lens,
That's
right?
right.
And you're
Yeah.
not inside it anymore. And you're like, I didn't like it while I was in it. And yeah,
Well, no, that's right. You don't. But the thing is, if you can get out of that, you can actually turn that into a positive, that negative thing, because you can help someone else through that,
yeah.
right? And
But
so
you
you
have to
turn,
get, that's why listening to these podcasts and stuff, I like to make these a workshop so that people say, well, how do you get out? Well, first of all, does any of this ring true to you? What we're talking about? Yeah. Okay. So begin to get honest with yourself. Start looking at you. Start writing down, okay, are my beliefs my beliefs? What do I really truly believe in? What do I really do? Now, also another thing that really catches you, this is back to the agency and stuff, when you talk about in your book, is if you don't believe that you are the one creating this, then why do you read self-improvement books and go to self-improvement seminars? I mean, that's a conflict,
yeah.
right? So either you are the creator or the victim,
Well, that's
which
right.
you can't be both. You're a victim or the creator. Okay.
And
Now,
a lot
once
of
you
people
make that
stay.
decision where, well, I don't want to be a victim anymore, good. Then you don't have to become, you became a victim. You weren't born that way. You are already a creator. So now you realize, well, then start creating small things. Start making decisions for yourself. And it could be simple. I'm going to go to this movie. I don't want to go. What? I don't want to. Why not? I just don't want to. Can you do that? Can you make so start with little things? I'm going to eat this. I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to do this. I'm going to go watch this movie. I'm going to watch this thing I'm going to go a different route to work.
See, a lot of
Start
people,
making
Vangelis,
decisions.
they think that it's selfish to do things for yourself. But you know what? It's not, is it?
No,
If you're not right with yourself, then how can you be helping anyone else or doing good things for
exactly.
other
And
people?
see, that was the trick. That's why for the first 50 years, I never did anything for me. Always think of others first. Where is that? Where's that? Where's that? Okay.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
so the thing is, if you don't fill yourself up, you have nothing to give. If you want to
yeah.
give
That's
somebody $100, but you don't have $100, what are you gonna do? So the thing is, I saw in a book, it's called self-full, not selfish. You're self-full. You're self-filling yourself. And I love what you said, Kristine. It's you can't give anything else if you don't have it. And so I started then, I wasn't even on the list. Okay, so then I started
right.
being number one. Now I don't even have to say things anymore. People just your presence is what all of a sudden starts speaking to people because now they can
Mm.
see, gosh, how do you do that? How do you think like that? How are you so calm or whatever? And then you say, well, because I spend all my time on me. What? Yeah. So I know what it's like the other way.
Yeah,
You live on fumes.
yeah. You have
Yeah.
to
And
you have to
yeah.
believe
And
in
so
yourself.
now
You
I
have
don't.
to know that you matter and believe that you're important, not just to yourself, but to this world in some way. And a lot of people die and never find their purpose. They never do what they were put on earth to do. They live other
Yeah.
people's
And
expectations.
if I see you as an example of taking care of yourself, then I go, well, I should do that for me too. See, and now all of a sudden, see, if I if I feel like I need somebody else to complete me, I suck the life out of them. But if I know I'm complete in myself, now that's where the giving comes. Because I've been
Mm.
around people. I mean, I have felt drained and exhausted most of my life because I was around people and then, oh, I'm doing, you know. So, and then I also realized, Kristine, as soon as I stopped doing everything for everybody, no more phone calls, no more texts. So you only had me around because I did things for you. Ah, okay. Okay. I see now. I get it. But I didn't see that at first. Right?
Because you've got to find out where you belong and who your people are. But to do
Yeah.
that, you really have to know who you are, because
Yeah.
then you can find the people like you.
And you can't discover yourself unless you spend time on you. I spent
Well,
zero
that's right.
time on me.
Mm.
I couldn't even, didn't have time to even look for me.
Yeah, it's pretty sad, then, guys. It's a tough life. But you know what? You've made up for it in the last, what, 10 years? How old are you now?
Oh yeah. Well, there's so much stuff I want to accomplish. I think I'm gonna live for another 50, 60 years because it's just so many things I want to do. And if I don't, I don't. But if I got to the point where the expectations of things are really not there much at all because um I my mentor, she has this triangle that she shows me. It's just a triangle. And the uh the left side, the right side, positive, negative, good, bad, masculine, feminine, right or wrong, right? And the middle is neutrality.
Mm.
And what she's been showing me is, are you okay having all the money that you had? Yeah. Are you okay having zero money? Yeah. And so now you're neutral. Now it doesn't matter because none of it runs you, right? So I've done that in all the areas of my life. Are you
Right.
okay being in great health or no health? Okay. And then now I'm in the mid. Neutrality is not something you achieve purposely. It's something that happens when you are okay and you don't have expectations and outcomes, which is not
Yeah,
something that just pops in there.
that's an interesting
And
concept.
so that's where I am now. So and so now life comes through me because I'm creating it. And it's trusting my soul, my spirit to guide me And now I'm not looking externally. I'm looking internally. And ooh, man, it's just
That's
so different
empowering.
now. Oh, yeah, it is. It's N-I-N, empowering, because now I'm the one giving myself permission to be powerful. I'm not accepting anything from the outside because it's all inside, you know.
Yeah. So Vangelis, I might start to wind this session up. It's been fantastic, and I'm sure that we could have a follow-up session in a couple of months' time
Sure.
and carry on and go into further depth. But right now, I would love for you to leave our viewers with, I don't know, some gem. Have you got something you'd like to share?
Well, I want to repeat what I said earlier, because the thing about being honest, the person that you should be honest to is yourself. The person you respect is yourself. The person you trust is yourself. The person you are faithful to is yourself. I had it all reversed. I was faithful to everybody else, trusting everybody else, and I gave everything to everybody else outside me. And that's why I live the way I live. So the thing that I want to leave is, if you trust yourself and no one else, then you trust your judgment and character assessment. If you have faith in you, then it doesn't matter if someone else does anything, because the faith is in you. So start internalizing things and you will see the outside of your world change based on what's inside here.
Yeah, because you become a mirror to the world, don't you? People, you shine out what you feel on the inside.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, that's a very good uh, concept to leave our viewers and listeners with. And it's been a real pleasure having you on my show. Thank you very much
Thank you for
for
inviting
being
me,
here.
Kristine.
Thanks, Vangelis. Yeah.
Bye.
Welcome back next time as well.
All right.
Hey, everyone. We'll catch you next time and stay well. I stop it. I didn't stop it.